got to build up this lower wall now, and the reason why is because I have an opening for my entry door. And what I've done is I cut the entry door in, and so that's cut in, so I'm going to share that with you. And thank you for watching. In this video, I cut in the biggest hole in this camper that's ever going to see. And I'm cutting it in but not installing it yet because I'm going to save to install later, so that way the door itself and the frame of it doesn't get dinged up at all while I'm bringing in the appliances and all the cabinetry and all the, everything else, electrical and the water system and so on. That way I'm not dinging up, but also I've got the extra width. One of the problems I've found in the expedition camper world, and it is a pretty big one, is our entry doors. Entry doors are not sized for the appliances, and they're not sized for people. Seems really weird. I'm 6'2", and I can't find a single entry door that will fit my height other than from Outbound, which I couldn't get one of their doors with any reasonable time, so I chose not to order them because it was just going to be way too long to get them, and it ended up being that EarthCruiser was more than double the time to build out the truck chassis conversion, and so that added months of time to the schedule, and so I probably could have got by with ordering their stuff if everything went well with Outbound, but unfortunately I just didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that EarthCruiser was going to be late, and I didn't know that Outbound, or still don't know if they could be on time from the time estimates I received. So regardless, I went with MAD, Motorcraft Adventure Development, in part because not just because they could deliver on time, but because I really like the product. It looks great, it looks fantastic. The door looks really nice, it's a high quality door. I really like the looks of it. It's just roughly the exact same color as the Total Composites box walls, so it's not some off-white or anything else. It's really strong, it's well insulated, it's got a great locking mechanism, a 5-point locking mechanism. Wait till I show it to you, you guys are going to love it. But even their door, I believe it's only about 6 foot tall, and so I still am going to have to duck just slightly to go, and I'll confirm that. I can't remember what the exact height is, but the width, the finish, this is the finish width and height, and the finish width is only about 23.5 inches wide, and at 23.5 inches wide, many of the marine or RV industry fridges and washers and dryers and freezers and things like that are 24 inches wide and almost 24 inches deep, and so you can't get them through a 23.5 inch wide door once it's built out. So I'm leaving the door off until I get all those things inside, and then I'll go ahead and glue that door up and glue that on, get that done, and so that way that stuff's in there. Now if it ever breaks, I'm either going to have to disassemble those to some degree to get them out, or they're going to be angled to get out, and they may work angled because sometimes those depths of those refrigerators and things are like 22, 22.5 or 23, 23.5 inches, so they might just fit, but it's going to be really tight. The other option is going to be through my garage doors, which are going down here. So I'm going to cut in my garage doors. I'm going to have a pass-through from the livable space into the garage and out, and that will be large enough to get them out, so if I ever have to get them out that way, I can get them out that way. So that's my backup plan. I know you're thinking like, oh God, what are you going to do if it ever breaks? That's how. So just like with the insulation of the windows and the doors, I get ahead and go in with laying out where that entry door is going to go. And part of this comes down to where it's going to fall within my entry area, which is also my bathroom, and relationship to the cabinets within that. But of course also the height of it, to make sure that it's a step over and a step into the shower pan, which is going to be the entryway, or my mudroom / vegetable area as well. But also to make sure it's not so high that it's such a big step, but also high enough that it is a step in and not a duck down. That's ideally the correct configuration. And so I get busy with laying it out, and then of course get busy with my favorite friends, the masking tape and dry erase markers, and laying out the masking tape over actually where the cuts are going to go, and also wider than that to protect the exterior walls and interior walls from the saw blade and the saw base that's going to rub up alongside it. So I get a little smarter this time, and I draw the dry erase markers over the painter's tape, so that way the painter's tape actually does a little bit to help prevent the dust from building up. And even as you can see here, I finish up after taking a dinner break, because why? Because I've learned, don't make cuts when you're hungry. So come back afterwards after all the holes are drilled and or ready to be cut. And so that's what I did here, is finishing up the dimensions, laying everything out, and then starting with drilling the holes for the corners. In this case, I went ahead and invested in a drill base that I could attach to my drill, my cordless portable drill, with both a hole saw and just a drill bit. Being that the sidewalls are only 2 inches deep, I can actually drill just about all the way through them with the hole saw, but not quite. So I went ahead and drilled a pilot hole in each corner, and with the alignment tool in the drill base here, I can make sure those alignment holes were perfectly perpendicular to the sidewalls to ensure that where I'm lining back up from the interior to finish out the hole saws in those corners, and also the measurement before I cut those corners to make sure that the interior measurements are exactly in the same place as the exterior measurements. So it's also my alignment tool or pin where I put those little holes in the corners for the interior cuts to make sure I cut the way through. Now, because my saw can actually cut to about 2.5 inches of depth, I can cut all the way through from the outside, which is actually what I do here. But of course, in the corners, the saw being rounded won't cut all the way through the corners. And also, I can't cut all the way up through that awning mount, which is where that horizontal blue tape is. So I cut pretty much right up to it where I think the saw blade, just before I think it's going to hit it. I don't want to cut through it with this saw blade as it's a fiber cement blade. It would get really abraded and beat up cutting through that metal, and probably beat up that metal somewhat too, or get caught on it. So I come back later with the jigsaw to cut through where the awning mount is, that steel awning mount through the middle there, but cut up to as close as I can with this circular saw. And you can see here I'm using the dust collector, which works fantastically well. As you look around, you don't see that much dust coming away from the saw, and that's a contribution also of my friend here, helping out by keeping a much better shop vac, this DeWalt shop vac on it, which is working really well with its HEPA filter, and then of course also the HEPA filter it's in his dust collector. And there's still a bit of dust that builds up on me, but this combination really helps well. Now on the interior, cutting all the way through in those corners and all the way up to pretty much an awning mount, and cutting through the awning mounts except for where the steel is, so setting the saw depth of the blade there so it's just deep enough to cut through the fiberglass extrusions within the wall but not the steel. And you can see here I'm probably doing something that looks very dangerous, and quite frankly it kind of is. But I am being very careful with that saw that is very close to my face. So right here, I've got my entry door all cut in. And so that is a big, big accomplishment, because now I can get in and out of the camper, right, with that rear wall being completed. And now by being able to get in the camper and have that rear wall completed, I can cut in my garage doors, get those cut in, get those built out. It's going to be a lot of work. Build up the bed platform, get my exact dimensions for the inside of the rest of this camper in so that I can get my cabinetry finished, complete, detailed design, and get the components and parts ordered up so I can build those and get those installed. And then, of course, the appliances and all that stuff go in the electrical system, the water system, everything go in those cabinetry. So I'm excited for that. But this, yeah, I'm excited for that. There's a whole lot of steps here still to go. One of the things with this entry door, I'll point out, is the steel that's in here, and this steel here. And I have that steel in there for my awning, which is going to go across here. And you're going to ask, well, why doesn't my awning go all the way up there? And I'll be really quick, because if it's all the way up there, and it's not really going to provide much shade down here in the ground if the sun's straight overhead or a little bit of an angle to that direction. And so having it lower actually will get some shade. And it's also reachable if I'm going to do some kind of an awning that can attach, or I need to move it out, whereas up there I won't be able to be reachable unless somehow I grow a few feet. So that's why my awning mount's there. But putting in this door, it took a lot of work to cut through the steel. It is hard steel to cut through, and I've got to do a little reinforcement here. There's no foam in this section, and there should be, so I could add foam back in there, and I'm probably going to do some kind of a structural piece of fiberglass in here, a couple pieces to hold that piece of metal where it's at, and then backfill the rest with foam, and kind of do, this one won't be used anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant, just make sure it's filled with foam. There you go. That's the big progress right now. I have an entry door opening, and here it is. Here's the entry door cutout right here, and so I've got an entry door opening, and I have the rear wall is about to go on, and then it's going to be buttoned up except for the opening in the entry door, so I can start getting all the rest of the components starting to go in, and we're getting there step by step. And here's a little preview of what's to come next.